Hi, everyone. Connie Myers here, and I am really looking forward to this interview. This is a lovely woman that I've only met just a very short time ago, and I've really enjoyed the conversations we've had. Theresa, thank you so much for joining me.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
so she is definitely a cookbook leader, and she's going to be talking about leadership with the heart. And I think that the important part we need to know about that is many times leadership doesn't come from the heart, it comes from the ego. So we really this is a good time for us to talk with her and find out exactly how we do lead with the heart and forget the ego. So Theresa, first question I ask everybody: were you a leader as a child?
I was, absolutely. And I really am glad to be able to be here with you and share this story. I was 360 days old when my sister Kate was born, my little Irish twin. I come from a family of good, solid Irish Catholic people. And when Kate was born, I would toddle along after my mother, trying to help her, wanting to bring her whatever she needed for Kate, little toys or diapers or something like that. And Kate and I have been a team ever since, especially because my mom kept bringing babies home every year pretty much until I was 8.
Good Irish family. I come from one
Good
of those
Irish
too.
family.
I come from one of those too.
And back then, my mom was really tall and with short, dark, wavy hair. She was slim and energetic and took care of herself and all of us, which she had to. I remember she has a sing-song laugh, and whenever she would laugh, whenever we did something silly. And she needed all the energy that she had because there were 6 of us. I mean, 4 girls, and then my brother, and then my youngest sister, who was Roseanne. She was born in the summer of 65. Dad was gone a lot during that time because he started traveling for a new job. And one day at dinner, he said, we're going to move to a new town. And I'm like, oh, are we going to go too? And mom and dad said, of course, we're going to go. But we're going to wait a little bit because Roseanne, our youngest sister, was really small. I was only 8, but she was the very first baby that I was able to hold and take care of and really, really cuddle with. She fit entirely into the crook of my arm, and I remember her small face and brown eyes and hair and just wonderful. And I'd look at her and look deeply into her eyes, and I know she looked back at me. My mom would always say, "Oh no, that's just gas. She's not smiling at you. It's just gas."
Just gas.
But I know we connected. And breathing in her fresh baby scent was really wonderful for me. The sad thing is, Roseanne was a little different from the rest of us, though. We had to be extra careful with her, and because mom said, honey, Roseanne has a hole in her heart. And I couldn't figure that out. I was 8 years old and I had been making hearts, but I never put a hole in my hearts. And I thought, well, maybe she could go to the doctor and the doctor could put a band aid and fix it. Wouldn't that work? Well, Roseanne did go to the doctors and she went to the hospital. My mom went with her and I wanted to go too to help. But mom said no, I needed to stay home and take care of the little kids because they needed someone to play with and my dad really needed the help. And I said, okay, I'll do that. She did go to the hospital with Roseanne, but a couple of days later, she came back all by herself. And I said, oh, where's Roseanne? And she said, well, she died. And I said, well, what's that? And my mom said, well, it's like going to sleep, but you don't wake up and you don't come home again. And I thought, oh. And then my mom started crying, and my dad put his arm around her, and he said, Mom's going to go take a rest now. And I was like, oh, Mom, please don't go to sleep. Just stay awake. Don't go to sleep if you rest. Don't go to sleep. But I decided at that point that my mom really needed help with the little kids because the little kids were really noisy. And so my Irish twin, Kate, and I said to Kate, Mom needs help. We got to help her. We got to take care of those little kids. We got to play with them. We got to pick up after them. We've got to get them dressed to go out. We've got to do everything that we need, that mom needs, so that she can rest. And so that's what we did. And that's, I think, how I started on my leadership because, when you think about businesses go through crises like my family did when Roseanne died because things just really got hard. And there's with 6 kids, 5 kids remaining, but 5 kids under the age of 8 and under. I mean, there's just no time to think. And the little things, I think I didn't know what I was doing. I was 8 years old, but I knew that my mom needed help and I knew I had to step in leadership. And what is business? I mean, business is trying to put people together to get things done, to identify and solve problems. And so that's what I did when I started at 8 years old.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so what is one thing you learned as that 8-year-old of a leadership skill that you are using today?
So I think it's the connections. I mean, I think it's really identifying who is going to be the one to help me out and who's going to be the one to help us get across the finish line. And I think that I've used those skills throughout my entire life. When we when we had our business, it was a family business. It was my husband's family's business that we bought from my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. And it was interesting because my husband worked in New York and I held the business and we moved and took into the business. I had to figure out who the people were. I had to figure out what they did, who was who, how everything worked. And then I found that there were some things that needed to be done, that needed to be tweaked and changed, because when everyone buys a new business or takes something over, you want to make it your own, right?
Right.
You want to make it so that it's comfortable and so that you can put your own mark on it. And so I moved people around too, which caused a little bit of angst, but still it worked. And the business became very successful and we were really pleased and happy with that.
So, may I ask what kind of business was it?
Yeah, it was an inbound call center. So it was an answering service. My husband's grandmother started it, in the late 1940s. And, this is when women weren't working and definitely they didn't own any businesses, especially not a technical business. And, the men laying the telephone lines for the call center were betting that she'd be out of business in 6 months. And we sold the business probably a little over 50 years later. So
Wow.
it's
Wow.
still going,
She was a
still going.
pioneer, definite pioneer.
She
So,
was, she was.
what before we get into the nonprofit stuff that you do, um,
Hmm.
what does when you said leadership with the heart, what to you what does that to you?
What does that mean? What does leadership with a heart mean to me?
Yes.
Well, to me, leadership with a heart involves a couple of things. It involves empathy. Leaders have to be people that people can trust. Leaders have to be people that people can get behind and feel confident in. They have to be people who provide a measure of stability and structure for the organization and for the employees working there. And leaders also have to be able to set the vision and be mindful that people want to be inspired. They want to see that there's hope for the future. And they also want to see that they've got a part in that hope, that how they play the part for all of this. So I think empathy, I think connectedness, I think being in connection with other people is really important as well, because now in the nonprofit space for the last 23 years, I mean, it's connections with your volunteers, connections with your donors, connections with your staff, connections with people in the community that you whatever mission you're helping, and then also your neighbors and other people within the community. So it's just a lot, but I think connections are really important.
So in the nonprofit space, I mean, I can imagine a secret to be having a successful fundraising campaign. What do you think one thing would be to look at?
So a secret for a successful fundraising campaign, I think it's going to be really understanding who it is that you're talking to and what it is that you're trying, what the messages that you're trying to position, to make sure that the message is resonating as to why your organization is important to the community and why your organization is worthy of the funding that you're providing for that. Because There are 1.8, that's the last number, 1.8 million nonprofit organizations in the United States at this point in time. And, there's a lot of people who are looking at nonprofit organizations and wondering, well, should I give to this one or should I give to that one? And there's just so much noise. When I talk to our donors, they'll say to me, I get 15 solicitations every day in the mail.
Ah,
And it's amazing how much. So when there's that much competition in the space, your message really has to resonate with the donor in order to be able to secure that particular gift. Unless, of course, that person has been giving to you for many, many years and knows you very well. But then
wow.
the message will be more customized anyway.
So I have I'm now whatever that number was of number of 1.8 million. It's 1 million, 1.8 million one. So I just recently got my nonprofit. So I'm kind of asking from a very selfish position. Um,
That's good.
I'm just getting the bank account set up, and you give me some good advice and everything else I need to have. What if you're starting a nonprofit? It can be very daunting. And
Mhm.
what is a piece of advice you could give me when I'm starting it to help me get on the right track?
So most people who start a nonprofit because they've got a heart for the mission. That you see a problem that you want to solve, and you're really excited about solving that problem. And the nonprofit space has a lot of regulations, and each state has its own regulations. So I would encourage anyone who's considering starting a nonprofit to think down the road, maybe a year, who are you going to be soliciting? How do you want to solicit those people? And look to make sure that you are complying with all the rules and regulations in each of the states in which you plan to do solicitations. I mean, most people will get their bylaws, get their business set up, and then get the approval for the nonprofit status, and they think, oh, good, I'm done. But that's the first step. I mean, you really need to go to the state regulators, which could be the Department of State in some states, or it could be Department of Insurance, as it is in New Jersey, to understand what the rules are in order to be able to do solicitations in your state, because there are fines if you don't follow the rules. And really, it's just a matter of registering your nonprofit, registering how you're going to be doing the solicitations, and registering what the purpose of and the mission is and how the funds will be used.
That seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot. It's a lot when you're trying to get started and off the ground, but it's details. It's time consuming details, but it's not onerous. It's not super difficult.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think I had told you that my nonprofit, I wanted to start it because I'm in the preparedness, disaster preparedness space, and
Mhm.
I've got my crisis knowledge management certification. And one of the biggest challenges in getting people to be prepared for not just disasters, natural or man-made, but also other types of crisis in their lives or in their businesses, is for them to take the first step. And so my concept was to start out with having what I'm calling Kits for Kids. It's going to be my first initiative. And the reason I'm doing Kits for Kids is, first of all, I'll be able to get people to donate because it's kids that are in need of emergency kits. But also, if a child comes home, and like for example, when my son was probably about 7 years old, they had the fire department come to the school, and they were
Mhm.
talking about how you need to have a can of baking soda next to your stove in case there's a grease fire. So he came home with this little can of baking soda and said, Mom, you don't have this by your stove. You got to put this by your stove. And so I thought about that. I'm thinking, if a child comes home with an emergency kit and says
Mhm.
to their parents, you know, do you have an emergency kit? Mom and dad, you need to have an emergency kit. This is really important. They're going to listen to that kid much more than they're going to listen to me or anybody else that's talking
Mhm.
about it. So that was really the premise behind looking at a nonprofit and finding. And there's all kinds of community outreach and things like that we can do that will help to have
Mhm.
cities be and towns be better prepared. But yeah, the whole purpose was like, we're going to get these kids talking to their parents.
Well, it's important. It's important. I remember when I was in elementary school and when our kids were in elementary school that the fire department would have like the open house at the fire department. It was a big thing and the whole community would go and, they'd have snacks and treats and I guess Smokey the Bear was typically was there and talking about fire safety, about how to protect yourself, what to plan for, and what to do in the event of a fire. But to your point, for kids, you're also thinking about other kinds of crises and other things because crises befall families that are things other than just than a fire.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's the point I usually try to stress because you'll have people saying, "Well, I'm not really in an area that has natural disasters," or "We only have to worry about this natural disaster," and it's not going to happen to me. It's going to happen to that other person, not me.
Mhm.
And the point is that these emergency kits include things like, depending on their age, appropriate whatever age they are, so they're going to include like a stuffed animal or a game or something, depending upon what the kid is interested in. And it could be something like a death in the family. It could be an illness. It could be all kinds of things where
Mhm.
that emergency kit is going to come in handy. As a matter of fact, I just added a new tool to it because the number one death, I'm sorry, that's the number one. The fourth leading cause of death in children is choking.
Oh yeah,
And,
I can imagine. Hmm.
and there's this wonderful gadget. It looks like, I hate to say this, but it almost looks like a toilet plunger.
Yeah. Hmm.
But you put it over the victim's mouth and push in and out of it, and it'll suck out whatever they're choking on.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
I said, you know what? That's going in the kit. I think, that's an important tool.
Yeah.
So it's not just if we're going to have a hot fire or an earthquake or a hurricane or a flood or, a power outage or whatever it might be. I mean, those kits could come in handy for all types of things. And
Right.
one of
And
the
you
things
could probably,
what's that?
oh, I was just going to say, you could probably get a lot of corporations to sponsor those kits and underwrite the cost of putting everything in. And because they would want to be seen as a strong community partner in honor of preserving and saving families.
Well, that's kind of my idea. That's another conversation you and I are going to have. How to make that happen. So,
Yeah.
so you work for several different nonprofits. Do I have that correct?
My career has been 23 years, and I've worked for small nonprofits that are in a community, homeless shelters, educational institutions for children, long-term care, senior citizens, housing, nursing homes, and then I did fundraising for scientific research for diabetes and Alzheimer's disease, and now I'm doing fundraising for an international development and relief organization. So we're raising money around the world, primarily in the United States, for people in the global South who are dealing with crisis and poverty. So
Wow. Wow.
it's been amazing. It's truly inspiring. I don't. People go into the nonprofit sector because they really want to make a change, and in every organization I've worked with, the people involved have been really dedicated and hardworking, interested, generous, kind people to fulfill the missions.
Well, I have to say, I think the other people that I've met in the nonprofit space, and most of them are very small nonprofits that somebody's
Hmm.
put together because they're passionate about something. They're always inspiring. I mean, I have to
Hmm.
say, I mean, I was actually at a big women's event, and they had a whole like 4 hours they devoted to different nonprofits that the women that were attending were a part of or has founded. And the stories were just absolutely
Right.
amazing. And I used to support a lot of nonprofits
Hmm.
when I was making my transition from my old life to my new life. I was going through all my certifications and training and everything, and I needed a way to stay involved with. I'm in the real estate space. So I stayed involved,
Hmm.
and I started selling accessories and jewelries at nonprofit events,
Oh,
and
good.
in the real estate space, and people still remember me. I mean, I was in the space for like 20 plus years before that. They don't remember any of that. They just remember my junk show special stuff, and
Hmm.
which is kind of cool. And I'm hoping that when I get my nonprofit off the ground, that it will truly make a huge difference in communities. My vision is to help 30 million people be better prepared.
Wow. That's all.
So it's a big mission, but it really isn't a big mission. Here's the problem. The
Mhm.
problem is that 61% of Americans believe they're going to be involved in some kind of a disaster or crisis over the next 3 to 5 years, but only
Mhm.
15 to 30% believe or have any kind of preparation. And I use the number 20%. All I'm doing
Mhm.
is taking it from 20% to 25%. I'm not making it over 50. So
Mhm.
it's a big goal, but it's not a big movement on the scale of things, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So, but
Right.
I really admire. It takes a special kind of person like you to want to be doing fundraising, and that's a special. So, thank you for all the work that you do and everything you've
Mhm.
done. So that leadership as a child has really transformed you into somebody that is a real leader with a heart. So thank you
Mhm.
so much for everything you do.
My pleasure. Thank you for the time.
Yes. I put in want to reach out being. So I'm looking forward to getting to know her more. We just met, what, about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like
A
that.
couple months
And
ago.
so I'm looking forward to
Yes.
getting to know you better. A couple months
Yeah.
ago. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting to know you a lot better. All right, everyone. Another fabulous Kick Butt Leadership interview. And please go and watch it again. If you didn't see the whole thing, go back and watch it again because she's got a lot of good information about how to lead with a heart. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Theresa, for being on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Connie.
See you again with another Kick Butt Leadership interview.